was on a plane to California. I had all the time I'd ever need. Did you even know I was looking for you? I think that I was hiding in between. How long did you wait for me? How long did you really need to figure it out? I got in a cab when I first got here. Take me to the only place I know. Listen to the people that I found there. If you ever see her, let me know. How long did you wait for me? Oh yeah. How long did you really need to figure? Was standing in the hall for 7 hours. Knew that I could make it if I ran. Then I saw you walking out the back door, hand in hand with another man. How long did you wait for me? Yeah. How long did you really need to figure it out? To figure it out? To figure it out? Did you figure it out? To figure astronaut from the future or a warrior on a mission. Let's game it, let's get the win. Get the win.
Are we live or not?
We are very much live, Kamizoide. We are very much live. Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. We are here.
Hello.
We made it. Welcome.
Yeah.
What do you think of this new setting, this new look? This is the new home of the podcast. Live on stream. Oh, by the way, you got a new background. We're using a new way that we're going to be doing our audio system a little bit. So it might take some getting used to, might take some fixing up in some areas, but if Kamizoide speaks, he sounds like this.
Hello, hello.
And if BlueFox
Perhaps
speaks,
you hear me a little bit better now.
and BlueFox sounds a little bit like this.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
And that's how you're going to hear them live now on podcast. Before we do anything, and just make sure that we've got safety on recordings, because we're very much terrible at that. We always fail at our safeties, but this time we won't. So it works a little bit like this. You'll hear it inside chat. Please record the podcast. No,
It's I see my bars
Like
on
this.
on my audio thing moving.
Now
when you
recording.
talk, so hopefully
There we
that's not echo.
the little now recording thing pops up inside chat when it's recording. So we got a backup recording of this podcast, which is good because that's what we need all the time. We need that all the time. Right, we're talking about fantasy games inside thing. You know what? Before we do this, before we get down to this, you guys,
Yeah, what's up?
You guys on stream are gonna hear all the extra stuff. So and no, this is all the extra stuff. So let's start the intro. Let's put the actual intro on this thing. Should we do the intro, guys? You go ready for it?
We have an intro.
We have an intro. Let's do the intro.
Sure. Let's do the intro.
Let's do the intro.
Roll the intro.
Do we have an intro?
Yes! Oh, that was awesome. I love that. If you're watching on playback, you'll see that on playback, the intro go on. That was great. I love that. That was awesome. We'll cut that and edit that precisely for the actual video at the end of the month. Right, we're live. We're here. It's happening. 2025, guys. Who's enjoying 2025 in gaming so far?
Yeah, it's
Really?
okay.
Okay, yeah.
It's not. The year hasn't started for me yet. I mean, there hasn't been any games that are worth 2025 yet for me. Well,
Seriously?
everything's gonna start coming out in May for me. Yeah. I mean, what great games have came out so far?
Coming out in May for you?
Okay, for me, bro, we got the big banners in May. Well, perhaps for me, in May, I believe we got Doom: The Dark Ages in the 15th, and then at the end we have Elden Ring, Night Rain, and there's the Chinese new game Last Soul Aside. So yeah, May is gonna be a banner for me.
Okay. For me, by the way, before we get into our actual fantasy games, for me, there's a lot of good games that are just smashing it. January was kind of empty a little bit for me. I don't think there was anything majorly out in January, but as soon as February hit, BlueFox, Civilization 7.
That looks quite nice.
It does
Although
look
I've
quite
heard
nice.
I've heard some critiques, but to be fair, every strategy game also needs a lot of work after the game is released. Strategy games, you can never release perfect the first time around because you need balancing, you need testing, you need patches, you need updates. So it's always hard to judge them from the get-go. So for that reason, I'm a little bit waiting. Also because my computer probably doesn't handle it. So I'll probably wait to upgrade my computer. But yes.
And as much as you
Civilization 7.
and as much as you can build a game and all that kind of stuff and create something that looks amazing, you have no idea how the players are going to play that piece of art that you've made. So updates are always required because the audience always changes. Kingdom Come Deliverance has come out.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. What are your thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? I heard a lot of good things about it.
One word: epic. Just epic. It's absolute. It fits in at my top.
Okay.
It's currently in first place for Game of the Year at the end of this year. If
Okay,
any other
that
games,
is a big.
there are
okay.
potential games that can overtake that. But yeah. Also, Tomb Raider Remastered. I'm doing that on stream right now. I think BlueFox, you've seen a little bit of me play that game. That game is difficult.
Oh, bro, come on. That's how old games are, bro. old games were very, very harsh compared to today. Most of them hold your hand and stuff, and that's what I absolutely like about the old games, man.
I
It used
tell
to
you,
be harsh, it
I,
used to be brutal, and that's how it should be.
yeah,
Well,
that's
for me, of course.
which is why you like well, Elden Ring, isn't it? Because it's hard. It's actually hard for once compared to
Of
other
course,
games.
bro.
I mean, I say
Uh,
it's hard for you. It's probably like a walk in the park. For the rest of us, it's hard.
maybe one more title that I wanted to mention, Blue Fox. You picking up the new Yakuza game, like the Hawaii Pirate one? I heard a
Yeah,
lot of
the
good.
like a dragon pirates. Yes, I was looking for that. The thing is that with the like a dragon slash Yakuza series, I'm trying to play them in order. So since this one is in theory a sequel to the one that I didn't play yet, then yes, I'm trying to play them as they come. So currently, just like in these past days, I've been playing Ishin, which is the Yakuza set in like samurai Japan,
Back in
which is
the yeah,
pretty
yeah.
dope. Um, then after that, I will probably play like 7, then Gaiden, then 8, and then I'll play the Pirate one. So it's a little bit tricky because the Yakuza games are they are released more than I'm able to catch up with. So I'm always like 3 games behind. It's I'm trying my best, but I'm also playing
Yeah,
other stuff. It's not that I can just play Yakuza games. It's with newcomers, it will be tremendous. And now they announced Project Century, which is another game from the same developers that's going to be set in like 1915 Japan, which looks amazing. But yes, again, I'm just a little bit behind.
Oh, bro, I really need to get into the Yakuza games, and I looked into the catalog and just decided, yeah, I'll just play Yakuza Zero. It looks at least like
Yeah,
it
that's a
is
good
the
place to
very
start.
first the game.
That's an excellent place to start. It's
yeah,
a prequel to every game, and it's fairly recent. So it's yeah, because like some games of the franchise, especially like Yakuza 3, 4, and 5, are like a little bit rusty, but Yakuza 0, it's pretty solid.
yeah.
So it's one of my
All
favorite
right.
games, if not my favorite game.
All right. And before we start off, I think like February, I think it's been a really good month for video games.
There's gonna be
March is
Monster
gonna be a
Hunter.
little slow because I believe like we have like the new Assassin's Creed game, and I'm not interested in. Plus, it has a lot of controversy in. And then we have May when the 2025 gaming officially
Mm.
starts for me.
Yeah.
Well, and in April we're gonna have the direct for the sequel for the Nintendo Switch, so the new Nintendo console.
Oh, that's
So
gonna
we
be
don't know.
fun.
Oh
Yeah, so we
yes.
don't know what's gonna release, but if it's releasing this summer, then yes,
Oh,
we'll probably.
oh yeah, yeah. Again, sorry, but before we started the podcast, Blue Fox, this is
Yeah.
something that I wanted to ask you in the last
Right.
podcast episode that we
Ooh,
didn't
yeah.
record, sadly. But what are your thoughts on the new Nintendo Switch? Not gonna
Oh.
lie,
Yeah,
not a lot of changes, but hoping for the best in terms of specs. You know.
yeah, that's the thing, right? You don't expect to see many practical changes when a new PlayStation is announced, right? Like if you take a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 5, from a gimmicks point of view, there's nothing new. It's still like the same controller, still the same, yeah, way to play, but the hardware is stronger. So usually Nintendo takes the other path to say, okay, we don't make a more powerful software, hardware, but yeah, we'll make some gimmicks, we'll make some new stuff. This time they went more in the traditional way to say, okay, let's just make what we do now, but newer. So I don't know. In one part, I would say that's not very Nintendo-like. So it's a little bit disappointing not to see something excitingly new. But on the other hand, like yeah, if it works, why change it, right? If it's PlayStation 4 sold a lot, they made a PlayStation 5. Period. They didn't need to overthink it. So sometimes to make something simple is also to make it great. They can still make a lot of improvements with the problems the Switch had, mainly like the Joy-Con drift and the yeah, also the hardware limitations of the Switch are quite evident, especially in 2025. So there has to be an upgrade that can run current games. So I don't know. If this new console is powerful enough and also not expensive, because yeah, stuff is getting more expensive now. The PlayStation 5 Pro just launched and it's 800 euros. So
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
hopefully it's not 800 euros new console. Then yeah, it can work. And it's also compatible with the older Switch, which is also great news because if you do not currently have a Switch, then you can say, well, I can buy the new Switch, and while I'm waiting between one big release and another one, I can just pick up an older game. Maybe also like used or from a friend that says, okay, a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, here you go, just play that in the meanwhile, and probably it's gonna run better. It's gonna maybe be in a higher definition, higher frame rate.
I'm just going to BRB for 2 seconds, okay, guys? Carry on. I'll be 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, I think it can work. I'm optimistic. It's of course, again, it doesn't have that magic that Nintendo usually has with their console, like, oh, they're making something unique, they're making something out of the blue. But at the same time, who else is doing a portable console these days? It's not, the Steam Deck, I guess, but it's not the same thing, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. But when I watched like the direct on showcasing the new Nintendo console, the new Switch, it's just that whenever when I watched it, I was expecting major, a major change, like in the look or the way you play, but it felt like it's just an upgrade. That's what I came out from the direct. They also like showcased like a new Mario Kart game, so at least that's very interesting, something to be excited for, since I absolutely love Mario Kart.
it's
Other than that, it's been. Just as you said, I really hope for the best. I really hope that at the very least, the system can like work as a PS4. It can run some really big games, So at least that gives me the benefit of the doubt. But I'm still a little worried. That's all.
Well, the thing is, again, I'm worried because usually Nintendo doesn't aim towards a stronger hardware, right? So they're not used to make powerful hardware. They're usually known to make creative hardware, right? Like you take the Wii. Like, okay, the Wii was not powerful as a PlayStation 3, but hey, you had motion controls. That was something unique. Or you have the Wii U. That's okay. It's not powerful as a PS4, but you have the gamepad mechanic. So it's sometimes it succeeded, sometimes it failed, but at least it was creative. This time it's not creative. But again, if the games are good, the software is good, the console itself is like doesn't wear and it's not expensive. That's the thing that I'm hopeful that it usually Nintendo can say something like, okay, it's not powerful as the PlayStation 5, but it's portable and it's $400 instead of 800. What you're gonna do? It's it would be nice.
Yeah,
right?
They can really pull off a very smart move with the price.
Again, it's they can say, look, it's not it's not your RTX 5090, but you don't need that. It's you need a good console that works, has a great battery length, it's portable, and you can play Mario Kart. What else do you want, right? It's for again a reasonable price. So it's I think it can work. Again, I'm hopeful. We're still gonna wait for the direct itself, which is gonna be the 2nd of April, which is a long time. It's still like 2 months ahead, so that's a little bit frustrating. Like, I want the news now. We know it's gonna happen sooner or later, so why wait so long? But it's I don't know. I think Nintendo is cooking. It's a big surprise here.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot from Nintendo. Like lately, lately, as someone who loves Sony, we've been getting nothing but disappointed, bro. Like Xbox is already cooked and already made something good with their like small showcasing four of like three of this year's biggest games, and Nintendo showcased their new Switch system, and of course, with having their big direct, they're probably going to showcase a lot of great games as well as like a new trailer for new Metroid. But then Sony just had its state of play, and it was nothing but just disappointment after disappointment. There's literally no games to play on the PS5. Imagine that after 5 years, we still don't have games to play to get excited for and play on the PS5. Like, come on, man! Why?
You have remasters of games that you already played.
No, to be honest with you, like this year I haven't played anything new. Like the only thing that I played new was like the DLC of Elden Ring. I haven't bought anything new and played. The rest I just been going back with my old console, like trying out games on the PS2, trying out games on the PS3. Like recently I've been playing like the Onimusha games. That's something that I've been getting into. But anything new just haven't got me excited about any new games. Just
No, I feel it. Also because, I mean, to this day, there's still games released for the PlayStation 4. Like the previously cited Yakuza Pirates. Yeah, that's like also on PS4 because the developers are like, look, it can run on a PS4. then we'll just put it also on a PS4. Why bother? It's doesn't have
But
the
at,
exclusives.
but at the very least, when it comes to like the Yakuza games, it kind of makes a little bit of sense because Yakuza's having, for me, the Yakuza games are having like the similar issue to like Assassin's Creed games or Call of Duty games where like they're making a game each year. And I believe like the next Yakuza game, if it takes like 2 to 3 years time for them to make it, it's probably not going to be on PS4 100%. But since they make like Yakuza games yearly, they're just going to upload it, make it for the PS4 too.
Right,
Trust me,
yeah.
if like pirate game Yakuza released in, let's say, in 2026, 100% would not release on PS4.
Yeah,
Since
that
it's
is so. That is fair.
just decided now. And it
But by
doesn't
the way,
feel
should
like it's a
we
major. It doesn't.
should we start the
Sorry,
podcast eventually?
it doesn't feel like it's a big major game, but just so they decide to release. Okay, I think we've been babbling for far too long. It's time to start the podcast officially. So, fantasy games, right, Seb?
Yes, that's right. Yes. Right. Okay. Are we ready to go? You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right,
Yes.
let's do this. All right. I want to see if we can get some music on this. Get like some background beats. Cool. Right, that works. And if that's kicking on through. Right, so let's go into fantasy games. So we'll start with the first question. Obviously we've got some games along, but we'll get into the questions. What draws players to a fantasy world in games? Kickstart with Kamizoide. Why not?
Okay. So this is from my perspective. I believe like what gets the attention of a lot of players to a fantasy open world game is the world that they're about to play in, experience, the way it looks, the environment, creatures within this world, the people inhabiting this world. One example that I want to mention. This is something that I've always been wondering about. Is a lot of people love the video game Bloodborne, even though it's part of like the Souls game and everything. And to me, it's like not my favorite. But the reason I see a lot of people liking this game a lot is because of its fantasy world. It's a gothic world, very dark with very consumed crazy creatures who are just looking to consume your blood or eat you and all. And you're known as the hunter. You hunt all these creatures and monsters. This world's literally not inhabited, so it's just you against everything around you, and your job is just hunt your prey. You know? So even after you defeat a boss, it doesn't like the game doesn't tell you like you have succeeded, you are doing this enemy. It tells you like prey slaughter. So this is the reason why this fantasy is so captivating because of how dark and gothic it is. So it just captivates you and interests you to discover what happened in this world. Why is everything like this? Why am I hunting all these creatures for no reason? Does my player is crazy or something? So I believe what makes a really great fantasy open world game is the world that the player is going to engage in. Does it give that question of like does it want the player to discover what's going on in this world? Because I believe just the world itself has to push the interest of the player to try to discover what happened, the story behind the world itself, the characters, the environment. So yeah, I believe that the world building, the world itself is what makes a great fantasy game, and of course the story behind it.
Okay, right. And BlueFox, you?
Yes, I fully agree with Kamizoide in the sense, yes, it's as the word itself says, the fantasy, our imagination, the idea of exploring a world that doesn't exist in our own, but we can imagine it. It's what draws our attention to these fantasy worlds. There are different types of fantasies. Of course, there is the most traditional elves and gnomes and whatnot, kind of Lord of the Ring imagination that we have. Most games like Dragon Quest or Dragon Age or The Witcher that have a more, let's say, traditional world building. And there's the more dark and cube fantasy like the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne. But yeah, also intrigue us in a different way because we see a distorted way of our fantasy.
Yeah, of our fantasy. Yeah, exactly. I was
so
going to say,
but yeah, usually what drags the players to fantasy titles is their location. It's usually their setting, which it's amongst many. It's you have sci-fi games, we have post-nuclear games, we have also historical games that don't have fantasy elements. We have the recently released title of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It's like a realistic medieval setting. It's not fantasy. There are no elves and gnomes. There is a true world. So it's amongst the fantasy ones is the most common. Which, by the way, maybe I should say this just at the beginning of the podcast. I'm not the greatest fan of fantasy games. I'll say it. It's I have not played my Skyrim. I have not played lots of mainstream fantasy games. It's not my preferred settings. I do have games that I love, which are fantasy settings, like my beloved Zelda Breath of the Wild. You can consider it a fantasy, but it's usually I'm not. I don't play that many fantasy games. But regardless, there's still an appeal to them. So I'm glad to discuss them in today's podcast.
yeah, I like the idea of being able to transport yourself into something that you never get to, that you'll never experience. Like, for example, like you've got like different things that you can do in like games, like management type games and all that kind of stuff. Like when it comes to like, I don't know, let's say for example, Gas Station Simulator. Gas Station Simulator is something that exists. Like, so you could experience it in real life or experience it inside the game. Of course, the game takes it to a whole new level that will expand on that type of situation. But like when it comes down to just the basics and going, right, here's the situation, this is what's gonna happen, we're gonna like transport you into a fantasy realm. This is like, oh, we're gonna take you into the past, into like a whole new place. It's like, I think just gaming in general is just a great way of transporting you into experiencing things that you'll never get to experience. And I think that's just like part of what gaming is. It's just like cementing down and giving you a different experience, putting you into the life of somebody else. Yeah. Next, I'll start with this one. I'll go to BlueFox first. How important is world building in a fantasy game?
I've recently played one game, so before I've played this game, that I will reveal soon, I would have answered it's critical. You gotta have a lore and a world building well done in a fantasy game, because people, again, are attracted to the idea of playing a fantasy game because, they want to explore the world, they want to see the various kingdoms, the various empires, the various creatures, the conflicts, the magic, the traditions, the prophecy and whatnot. It's every fantasy game has a premise of some sort that involves magic or mysticism. Okay. However, I recently played a lovely title called Joe Deaver's Lone Wolf, which is based on the novels of Joe Deaver. But doesn't dive that much into the lore and world building as much as your typical The Witcher or your typical Dark Souls. It's more, it's allude to that, there is a world that has some rules, you have these Sky Lords and whatnot, but the game focuses more on the setting itself of the plot, of the mission that the player has to accomplish. So in this regard, I would say that there are fantasy titles that can have a fantasy setting without explicitly telling you everything about the setting. They just tell you, yes, this is the world, these are the people who live in this world, now get on with your story. It can still work. And I believe that I really enjoyed this title, this Joe Deaver's Lone Wolf, explicitly for this reason, because the game didn't lose too much time explaining everything regarding the world, but it kind of hinted at various aspects, and then it let you carry on with the adventure. This, I believe, also the Dark Souls games are known for, that they don't explicitly tell you everything about the world, you just kind of have to figure it out along the way. So it's yes, it's important, the lore and the world building, but it's not as crucial as I would claim.
Kamizoide, moving on to you for a second. On world building in your answering this side. What would you say to? Do you think it's important that when you play in a fantasy world and it's like big and open world, is it important to give each area a different design and a different feel to it, or do you think you can probably get away with having all the same kind of like aspect, the same design?
No. I believe like each area has to be a little bit different. Because if each area looks the same in terms of design, then you lose the aspect, let's say the element of surprise or the element of when you shock the player of how good this location looks. But even if you like, if some, let's say like me, if I go like do the same area over and over again, the only difference is just some enemies, or perhaps even the same enemies but a little stronger, they'll probably feel stale and get a little bit boring. We have like different areas, different locations, they look absolutely different. Each one has basically has its own look and its own enemies, its own area, and everything gives that location, let's say its own description, something like that. Plus, discovering that location and trying to find everything in it just gives you that sense of adventure. You found this absolute new location that looks absolutely stunning. You try to discover all the items within and find all the enemies in defeat them. And if you have like if you're basically moving around, then you're just exploring the same area over and over, then it gets a little bit boring. You're gonna be surprised and just keeps you more hooked and interested to discover this. You excel at randomly find one of the big experiences that I had in Elden Ring is that I've been like moving around the forest, the first area, which is Limgrave. So you're on your horse, you're moving around the cave, and I found an elevator. Went down the elevator and discovered a whole new area completely underground, a whole underground area with like let's say that looks a little sci-fi with like a whole space around it with stars and stuff. And this is like a very big area literally under a forest. So I was completely stunned of what I found. So having like completely different areas with their own designs gives that sense of discovery, stumbled upon an outstanding, beautiful looking location that just hooks you in. Want to find everything in this location. But what does this location have? What is the boss behind this location? The items, anything, So just having that element of grabbing the attention of the player, through the design of the look of the location, to try to discover it. Having the same location that just doesn't hook anything. Feels stale and boring.
Would you say that's like important to like immersion and all that kind of stuff? Like for example, when you're like inside the game, that's one level of immersion about how much it doesn't like how much it detaches you from real life, and it puts you inside the game, for example, and you're like really hyped with the game because now you're this character in this game. But then you've got that extra level of immersion because now you're in this area of this game. Do you think when you're inside that area, it detaches you from the rest of the game for that period that you're in that area? Kamizoide.
I'm gonna be a little.
Do you want me to redo the question again?
Just make it quick.
Sorry,
my mic really messing me up.
That's fine. I'll repeat it.
Here you go, folks. You're seeing live something.
Live technical.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. What I was saying is, do you think that level of immersion is important because when you step into the game, you gain your first level of immersion because it connects you to this character in this world, and that second level of immersion is more important because it connects you into that area inside the game that you're like, okay, I'm not interested in the rest of the game right now. I'm just interested in this particular area.
Yeah. I absolutely think so. because it's very important to get just have like various types of location within this world just to explore and discover because it hooks you in, you know. I don't know exactly because for me, like, take it from me from the way that I played Elden Ring. I just because for me, when it comes to like open, it is important for open world games. But for me, it's just I'm the type of person that plays video games, just keeps moving forward, and I'm just excited and hoping on what more, what am I going to discover more? What am I going to see? What type of enemies I'm going to be facing next? What type of location I'm going to find? You know, what's the difference gonna be within this location? That's why when I finish like Elden Ring or when I finish like any of the From Software games, I always get sad because I want more. So the beauty when it comes to open world games is that do you have the feeling of you want to discover more, you want to see more of these worlds, you want to see more of these characters, these enemies. So I think having like different areas, different locations, with of course, all with their unique designs and with their different NPCs, enemies, bosses, just hooks you in on that discovery. You know? Plus, it's also a way of discovering the art that the game itself trying to show you.
Okay. Alright. Kamizoide, sorry, BlueFox, I'm moving to the next question with you. How important is it for the soundtrack in creating these magical and fantasy atmospheres?
Well, the soundtrack is always important in a video game, kind of regardless of if it's fantasy or not. It's quite a key element to really immerse the player in whatever adventure they are in. In fantasy games, it's especially important because, again, you want to allure the player's imagination into a fantastical world. So then, yes, a good soundtrack can truly immerse the player well, especially if it's like a medieval fantasy scenario like it's in Dragon Quest. Yeah, you want to have a medieval sounding soundtrack, you know, with trumpets and drums, medieval styles. Then yes, once you're roaming the land, you hear the sounds of what you would imagine a medieval fantasy world to be like. If you're playing a darker fantasy like a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne like Kamizoide mentioned, then yes, you want to hear a soundtrack that's a little bit more cube, a little bit more dark, a little bit more unsettling to prepare you to fight off creatures that are not too keen. So it's yes, the soundtrack is important. I think it's a bit too obvious of a statement, but it has to be aligned with what type of fantasy you are exploring. If it's a fantasy game that is a little bit more modern, for instance, it's an example would be Valkyria Chronicles. That's still a fantasy game, but it's set in a quote-unquote realistic world in the 1930s, kind of a Second World War but fantasy. Then yes, you have a different soundtrack, a soundtrack that combines mysticism and fantasy, like those mystical tunes with modern 1930s music. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky to pull off. It's I'm not a musician. I don't know how to describe a mystical soundtrack in the first place, but we all know what it is. If you play a Zelda game, you hear the ta 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 ta, and that's already fantasy-like. It's so it's important. Yes, I'll keep it short.
Do you think then if like a game has sequels, so it has like a game after another game, so because like the theme of the game, like say for example, if Skyrim had another game out and it was another Elder Scrolls game, do you think then it has to keep on to like similar soundtracks to what the previous game was to keep the viewer kind of like, this is the round of the Elder Scrolls?
Yeah, well, usually yes, in the sense that usually franchises have similar-ish soundtracks. They don't have to be identical, because if let's say the Elder Scrolls 6 has a different direction than the Elder Scrolls 5. So the Elder Scrolls 5 was very Viking-looking world, right? You have the Great North. It was all snow. It was all Viking-esque. But maybe the new Elder Scrolls would be set in kind of a Middle Eastern medieval world, right? So more like with deserts, with dunes, with different kind of instead of kingdoms you have sultanates, and you just have a different culture that you want to try to replicate. And yes, in that case, you have a different soundtrack, right? You have a good example would be Dragon Quest, because Dragon Quest has a lot of different kingdoms that are set, that of course are not set in real places. They're all fantasy worlds, but yeah, they mirror a little bit our real world. So there is the kingdom of I think it's called Galops, which is a little bit Middle Easterner.
Yeah.
And you have next to it, you have a kingdom like I think it's called Spagonia, which is more like Spanish-ish, right? So then the soundtracks are different. The one that's more Spanish, you hear a little bit more Spanish-esque music, and the one that's more Middle Eastern, you hear more music from the Middle East, right? It's or then you go again, Skyrim is more Nordic, right? It's more Viking, so then you have more Norse kind of music. So it's so it depends. So if the sequel to Skyrim would be set again in Skyrim, which I highly doubt, but if that's gonna be the case, then yes, it makes sense to recycle and enhance the soundtrack that you already have. If you are gonna set it in a very different world, in a jungle replicant to Mesoamerican Aztec vibe, then yes, you gotta give it a little bit more Latin American-esque music. It's you have to be careful where you set it. You cannot just use the same soundtrack anywhere you go, right?
True. Kamizoide, what's the most memorable boss battle in a fantasy game, and why do you think it made that boss battle? Why do you think that boss battle was so unique to you?
Okay, so this is a very wonderful question for me. I love it, but to keep it simple, one of my all-time number one favorite boss fight is from Dark Souls 3, the DLC Ring City, by the name of the Slave Knight Gale. Everything about this boss fight is absolutely 10 out of 10. The location, you literally fight him in a location named called the End of the World. It's completely a sandy area with broken castles, broken buildings and stuff, and you're only you and the boss himself. That's it. There are no other creatures. There's nothing else. You're basically in the brink of the end of the world. You're just fighting this boss. Another thing about what makes this boss fight very memorable is the boss himself. You're not fighting a dragon. You're not fighting a mythical creature or some guy with 4 arms or big busty muscles or whatever. You're just fighting another knight exactly like you. Started the same quest that you started, but he lost some sort of like lost his mind and stuff. So it is your job to end his life and his suffering. And throughout the story of the game, we'll see this character fight at the end has been guiding you to this location to basically take him out. Another thing that's absolutely memorable about this boss fight is the music sets the tone of the fight to experience something great. And it start off very slow as you like fight him, and the more damage you deal him, the crazier and louder the music gets, because you are seeing this boss little by little lose his mind, lose all sense of humanity, lose sense of himself. You're just and the music just shows that through how stronger and louder it gets. And the more damage you deal to him, the crazier he gets. Another thing memorable about it is the story behind it. As I said, like the whole story is how this knight guiding you to challenge him and defeat him and use his soul in order to recreate the whole world again. So I believe what makes this boss fight very memorable is the story that it tells, the location where this boss fight is, and the boss fight itself. The reason why I absolutely love this boss fight is that because you're not fighting a mythical creature or a dragon. You're just fighting someone who looks exactly like you, started the same quest as you, but throughout the journey he is someone who lost his mind, lost his humanity, and you have to be like that brave knight who cannot lose. You have to be the one to free him and be like that righteous knight who saves the world, So that's why, for me, this is the most memorable boss fight, and of course, in a fantasy setting.
Right. Okay. Right. Moving on to the next question on my list. Okay. I'll get back to Kamizoide because I feel like you've got this one as well. How do side quests enhance or distract you from the main story as you proceed in the game? And should they distract you?
Okay, this is gonna be a little bit of a harsh opinion for me, but I feel like side quests completely
distract you
from
from
the main quest
itself.
itself.
I
And
agree.
there could be
There could
reasons
be
for that.
reasons for that.
One of the most annoying reasons for me is sometimes this is something that I hate about video games is sometimes they push you to do unnecessary, boring, uncreative side quests in order to level up, to strengthen yourself, just so you can continue doing the main quest, the one thing that you're actually more interested in. And this is something that Assassin's Creed, specifically Assassin's Creed Valhalla did. It's just push you to do boring side quests in order to level up, to be able to do the main quest itself. I absolutely hate that. And I'm not someone who's against having side quests as long as they are interesting. One thing, and the second thing, as long as these are side quests related to the characters within the world. One thing that I absolutely love about this game that I mentioned, okay, this is not a fantasy game, this is more realistic. This game, I'm talking about Ghost of Tsushima, but to me, Ghost of Tsushima is the best game that did side quests. They don't distract you from the main quest itself. You can do the main quest and do whatever you want, but the side quests are only related to each character you meet throughout your journey, and you're basically doing missions with them as you discover like what's their story, what's their mission. And you're trying to find out how their story ends. So these side quests are done in a way to start you the story of this side character, and it pushes you and interests you to see how this side character story ends. So it only focuses on this character, and this side quest focuses on this character. So it doesn't feel like a side quest. You're okay, go give me this and that's it. No, this is a side quest that you're literally following a story of this character, and you want to see it from start to finish. And I believe that is the best way to put a side quest. Not just go to some guy, talk to him on the side quest, just go fetch me this item, or go kill this bounty hunter or something. I absolutely despise those side quests, especially when it pushes you to do side content in order to strengthen yourself to do the main story. So when it comes to side quests, it has to be done in a proper way to push the player to actually experience those side quests. Otherwise, I'm absolutely against it.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know. With me, it's more like I definitely similar along the lines there. If it's just a quick collection, I don't know. Opinion, like, go with my opinion on this. If it's just a quick collection, again, I think that's totally fine. It's just a quick little thing. But it's like one of the things that annoys me about a really long side quest line is when it's when they do that thing where it's like, it takes you so far away from the main story that you actually forget what the main story by the time you get back to it was. You're like, sorry, I need a recap. I need to remind myself where I was in this thing again. Like, I'm so far off the story because I have to keep doing side quests all the time just to level up that I have no idea what the story is. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Some just quests make you forget about the whole main quest that you're doing in a game, and that's why I avoid them most of the time, because if it's, I believe that side quests can be done to help you get more invested into the main quest itself, but most of the games nowadays they feel more dragging, and they feel uninteresting. Specifically, I'm taking the example of Starfield. Not gonna lie, but most of the side quests on Starfield are uninteresting and just made me forget about the whole game itself. Made me forget about the story and everything, and I absolutely hated that.
I mean, Fallout does it with a purpose, and I'm okay with Fallout 4 because Fallout 4 just does it like, oh, by the way, yeah, we're doing this thing, but then again, you'll discover more of the map. So when you get back to the main quest later, you'll be able to, teleport yourself all around the map. When it comes to games, again, like certain games where it's like, I don't know, like Starfield, again, you're playing that thing, but you still have to unlock the map in the main story. You have to keep going, like finding new locations and all that kind of stuff, and same with a lot of other games like that. It's like, yeah, you still have to travel to places. I think Fallout, it becomes a little bit easier because they may have just hit the money right on the spot, where it's like, okay, well, that's going to be easier to do the main quest later on because now I've got more locations unlocked. But unless that's kind of the reason for me, then I feel like it can be a little bit distracting and a little bit pointless as well, because I don't really care about half the side quest sometimes. I'm like, this is great, but I feel like I'm being filled in with a lot of gaps here that I don't need. All right, we'll move on to the next question. BlueFox, I'm throwing it back. Oh yeah, go for it.
It is true what you said, Kamizoide, and that you confirmed, Seb, that it's useless side quests are quests that should not be in games, especially fetch quests, right? It's I understand when we were in the PlayStation 2 era or like early PlayStation 3, where the resources were limited, so the only type of side quests you could really put were quests where you ask the player to just move to another place,
Understandable,
and grab something and come back. I understand, like back 20 years ago, but yeah, we are in the year 2025, and we expect a little bit more from our side quests. Especially, for instance, I have not played Starfield, but I've heard that in Starfield, maybe this you can confirm me, you guys that you have played it, you have a lot of quests where you have to talk to somebody, because that somebody asks you if you can talk to somebody else, which is another planet. So you talk to the guy, go to your ship, fast travel, go to somebody else and talk to them. And I've heard that this is a bit ludicrous, because yes, we are in the year 2500, whatever. It's like, what, you don't have Skype? You have you really need somebody to travel the galaxy just to talk to somebody else?
In the realm of spaceships and the realm of inventions of the futuristic world. But we don't.
Yeah, like I can
Skype
understand when it's
holograms or a phone,
like,
for that matter.
Like, I understand if it's a fantasy title, like a medieval one, like where at least people don't get to travel that much. But like, come on, in a sci-fi environment, you have quests where you have to travel around to give a message to somebody else. Like, it feels also disingenuous. And again, as a player, you're not doing much. You're just talking to somebody and then walking towards another position to talk to somebody else, to then go back to talk to somebody else. Like, there is no quest. It's just a walking simulator.
Even in fantasy games as well, as you mentioned that, like, it's like, hi, we need you to deliver this item to this person. Is it? Yeah, you want me to do it? Not like, not that guy there whose literal job is a messenger that wants money.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to be the postman. You have to be
not him. You want me, the adventurer. Yeah. Okay.
So yes, in this regard, this type of side quests really don't have a place in gaming in the year 2025. They definitely are an extreme lazy. There can be like at most one or two, maybe just to introduce the player to some mechanics, like, oh, you have to climb the mountain, so we'll teach you how to climb the mountain. But it's ludicrous that you gotta do this type of quest, or even like your 20, 30, 40 hours in the game. But yeah, however, of course, there are games that do rely on side quests, and there can be very good side quests. The example that I always bring is The Witcher 3, which I believe it has an okay-ish main plot. To be honest, it's not bad, but it's not memorable. To be honest, I don't remember that many details regarding. It's like, yeah, you have to find Ciri, and you have to fight like the wild hunt that's coming, and then like you fight it and it's over. Like, it's not extremely memorable, the main quest, but it is very memorable, the side quest that you do, because the developers, as Siege Red, really invested their time to make every side quest feel very unique and filled with details that you truly care about. So the example everybody brings on YouTube, for good reason, is the Baron. He has his own line of side quest, one after the other one, that can last you like literally 3 or 4 hours of gameplay. Like, it's pretty long, and it's at most I think like you have to do only half to find what you were searching for. The rest is fully optional, but you still do it because you're invested in the plot of the Baron. You're like, oh yeah, this guy's having troubles in his life and you want to fix them, and you find secrets upon secrets, and it's interesting. So then yes, you're incentivized to do it, because you not only get to do something interesting to play the game, but you also get to learn more about the world and the situation of this particular NPC, and same goes with the other ones. But yes, it's so it depends what side quest you have. It's you can have a game that's based solely on side quests. If anything, you could have a game where you could finish the main quest very quickly, like a scene in 2 hours time, but only have other side quests. And yeah, you as an adventurer can just fill the world and be like, okay, I want to be the hero of this village, let's help the villagers out. Like, that's totally fine. But one thing is to help them out and actually approaching them and learn what they're doing, and one thing is to be the postman. So it's yes, it's important to contextualize and give purpose to the side quests.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in a fantasy title where like you have
Oh.
cool things around. And yeah, again, it's you have magic wizards, you have orcs, and you're still the postman. So it's yeah.
Blue Fox, may I knight you to do a quest to get from and save the whole realm of Albion and to allow you to gather your sword and shield and all that. But first, could you deliver this parcel to the king of that place over there, please? Could you just... Thanks.
It's not even the king. Usually it's like, oh, can you give these oranges to my neighbor? It's like, you're kidding, right? You're kidding.
Oh no!
It's,
here's like a funny story from me. There's a game that I loved back in the day, but I despised the sequel. Ever heard of like Darksiders? I don't know. If you guys
Darksiders.
Oh, I've heard about it.
I
Yes.
feel like I've heard of something around there, but not really.
No, the first game was good.
Yeah.
Was good. I loved the character. I loved the story. It was really good. The world is absolutely good. Then we go to the second game. Now the second game had a lot of what we are literally talking about now, and I finally remembered what a lot of gamers call it, which is fetch quest. So basically, go talk to this guy, go talk to this guy, and go talk to this. Now I want you to focus on this. The main character that you play with is called Death. And most of the game, you basically go talk to this guy, get this item, take it to this guy, get this item. Now back to this guy, talk to him so he can give you this item. Now. Hear me out. This is one of the quests. Now, in order for you to open this door to advance to the next location, you have to find 3 souls. So, okay, I go in, I found the first soul, talk to it, he's like, alright, let's go, I'll open this door for you. I go to the second soul, I talked to him, said that the only way you earn my army is to fight me and beat me. Okay, start a boss fight, beat him, alright. I go to the third soul, he tells me, okay, you want me? Yes. Okay, go get me this. I get him that. Now go get me this item. I go back, get him this item. Okay, now go talk to this guy. Get those items. Come back to me. I go do all of that, and then go back, talk to him, just so he can go and open the door for me. Like where's the fighting?
Where's the battle combat fighting?
There isn't. And the main character you play with is called Death.
Yeah, okay.
Come open the door for me, and he's like, "No, bring me this stuff so I can go with you." Like, bro, you're dead. Do something about it. I don't want to do this. And yet I still did it. And just I hated the sequel so much. I played it once, and I didn't even play the third game. No, I just stopped right there.
I know. I absolutely. Things like that. I was gonna mention. You guys might relate. If you've never played The Witcher, I'm guessing you guys have played The Witcher at some point. Would you say?
I did, yes.
Do you love how the tutorial is hi. We've got to find the person. Who's the person? It's Jennifer. We gotta find Jennifer. Where's Jennifer gone? We don't know. At the end of the tutorial, you can find Jennifer. But only after the king of the thing says, "Oh yes, well done for completing the tutorial and finding Jennifer." Now your main quest is to find Siri.
Yeah, it's
What we need you to do is to go out and fetch. Like the fetch quest is the main plot of the whole game.
You gotta fetch something. It's in video games you're a fetcher. It's if you fetch a fight, if you fetch an item, it's always fetching.
So have we just said all fantasy games are all about fetching stuff now? Is that what we've come down to?
Conceptually.
and fetching games. So we shouldn't call them fantasy. We should call them fetching. It's the better name for them. And I think we can all conclude. All right. So overall, and as we complete this hour and as we wrap up this podcast slowly, do we think that the problem weakness in the whole of these games isn't so much as leveling skills or the NPCs or anything like that? All that kind of looks great. The open world is brilliant on most of these games. The majority of where these games are weakness is the side quests. Is that?
I don't think it's a side quest. There's weakness because again, the side quests are present in every video game, right? Not only fantasy titles, also like
Absolutely, yeah.
non-fantasy games. So it's no. If I were to say a weakness regarding the fantasy genre as a whole that I anticipated early in the podcast, I'm not the greatest fan of all, is that there are many fantasy games that are not very creative. Like, how many fantasy games have you played that you have like your gnomes, your elves, your swordsmen, your archers, your fifth. You have the big empire, you have the small kingdoms, you have the clans. Like some fantasy games, especially like I played Dragon Quest 11.
Boy, you've been playing way too much World of Warcraft.
No, but like I mean, I haven't because I'm not too big of a fan of the fantasy genre in general because there are some games that truly, are not very creative in the sense like, oh, you have this whole, opportunities of making whatever thing you want to make, and then it's like, you just make a medieval kingdom fighting another medieval kingdom, and there's some like orcs in the middle. Like sometimes it's a little bit underwhelming. It's I gotta say, like it's especially I played Dragon Quest, which I didn't enjoy too much because it was like stereotype after stereotype after stereotype. Like sometimes people forget that the word fantasy literally means to fantasize something, to be creative, to imagine something that is not there. So if your imagination is limited to let's take elves and gnomes and leave it at that, then yes, of course I'm gonna get a little bit bored. So Dark Souls games, for instance, they were very well received because yes, they were quite unusual for the time, right? Because they had this very different type of cube. It's they were quite praised for that. But then you had
to play the Souls games, man.
I've played the first. I played the third one. Played the third one.
Oh, you played the third?
Played the third one, yes.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty dope.
Don't mess with the pro. Don't mess with the pro.
Everything you said.
I'm not good at it, of course, but
Souls game excel at is always their creativity is just so far as unlimited. They always hit you with something completely unexpected, and that's why a lot of people love these games because they want to see the kind of world the build. And that's why because I absolutely agree 100% what you said. Most of the fantasy games just feel stale, feel like the same. They don't give you something absolutely unoriginal.
Yeah. Kamizoide, what would you say? Go on. Yeah,
I'm a little worried about the new Fable. I'm not very excited about it because I hope they can give something completely new, creative. But I feel like it's gonna be very, very similar to a lot of like fantasy games. What about you, Seb? You're someone who's very excited about.
I'm excited about Fable. I'm a little bit on edge because it's under new development. When a game done with that high up as Fable, the original 3, and because there was so much comedy, and I know they're trying to push that in there, but comedy and game styles always change over time, and sometimes the wrong developer is in charge of something super fanatic as much as I am about Fable. I just think. It just doesn't feel as hyped as much anymore. I think I'm a little bit worried about Fable. I want it to be good. There's no doubt I want it to be good. I am scared that it may not miss the marks that I want it to hit. I mean, and also I wouldn't have a conception. I don't want to judge that game because let's be fair here. If it gets like 70% right. That's just only going. I want them to make games. I want them to get 100% right. I don't want them to hate on it just because it's not perfection. Just yet. You know what I'm saying? I want it in time. But only if it's a good game. Like, be very serious. Be very picky about it. It's good. If it's alright. Then make them buy the game. But if it's bad, let them know. But like, Kamizoide. I think it comes down to like okay. In a quick word, what do you think your strengths are when it comes to all these games, fantasy games? What do you think the strengths and weaknesses are for you?
For me, what makes a really good fantasy game is is the world itself, the world building. Is it very interesting? Does it catch my attention to see the kind of this world, explore it, discover it all, discover the story behind it? So I believe like the most important thing is the world building, of course. And I think we're gonna go into a little bit of kind of technical, the design of this world, the environments, the kind of creatures within this world itself isn't interesting to the point that it captivates me to discover a lot on it, because most of the fantasy games, in my opinion, like take for example, this is something that for me, Dragon Age, the world within Dragon Age, like let's say 1 and 2, were not very interesting for me, and it's not something that I really wanted to learn a lot. So I just completely finished the main story and just ended there. Compared to like any of the From Software games, because the way these world look just catch my attention of wanting to see more, wanting to discover more. Why is this building upside down? Why is this area completely covered in red? Why is this guy red here? What happened here? So just these environments are created in a way that just pushes you to want to learn. Why does this area look completely different from this? What happened here? And you just discover the backstory behind it, that there was an absolutely insane war happened in the because of this war that happened. This area completely changed, and it looks absolutely different than the others. So basically, the story behind the worlds captivate me to discover it. You know. So for me, what makes a really good fantasy game is the world the player is about to enter. Is it captivating and interesting for me to learn more about it, or is it just very lacking, uninteresting for me to just push me to take care of the main quest and just finish the game and let it go?
That point. And then BlueFox.
Your weaknesses, strengths.
Yeah, so the weaknesses already mentioned, the lack of creativity. Again, it's not for every fantasy world, right? It's of course every fantasy world has their own degree of how well it's made. But again, even The Witcher, which I would consider to be one of the most well-known, well-streamed fantasy game, is not that original, right? So yeah, you have that. As a positive, yes, it's again, you do have the freedom to create whatever world you want, and you're not limited into historical events or geography or whatnot. And you can draw from whatever culture, you can draw from whatever myths and legends. You have games like God of War, which used to be more lenient to Greek mythology, but then they went to Norse mythology, and they could do that because it's a fantasy title, so they don't have to justify that, right? It's if the next God of War wants to use the Aztec gods, then yeah, they can do it, right? It's no justification needed. So there is the freedom. So I admire that, and also I would say that there is something inherent in our imagination. When we think of a video game, we always think of adventure. We always think of starting off as a young Link, paladin, freshman from whatever school of sword, and then become a master. So then the fantasy world, it's quite accessible, right? Because then you can justify easily you were a whatever guy in the middle of nowhere, but then suddenly something happens and you have to start an adventure, and you have to make your own party made of people who also have their own issues to solve. So it gives a good pretext to start an adventure. That's why a lot of RPGs, as in like role-playing games like tabletop, like Dungeons and Dragons, are fantasy, right? Because again, they give a very good pretext to start an adventure. In a modern setting, it's a little bit more challenge, right? They say, we have to solve something. Yeah, just let's take the plane, right? It's a little bit more limited. And in a historical context, even more, because then yes, you have to think about like, but it's not that you can just ping pong around the world, with your caravans and whatnot. You are a bit limited with geography. So yes, they give the freedom to make.
Cool. All right then. Sorry, sometimes I don't know whether people are going to expand on their sentences or not, so I just give the gap. For me, I think strengths and weaknesses. I think I don't know how much you agree with this. Complexity. I think complexity is the biggest weakness for me in certain games. I don't know what it is. I think it can only come down to complexity because, like, when it comes to the games like Dragon Age, I love Dragon Age Origins. I love Dragon Age 2. I love Dragon Age Inquisitions. And I just don't like this latest Dragon Age Veilguard. I've played a bit of all of them. I've completed the first three 100%. There's just this latest one. For some reason, there's nothing enticing me to play it that I just can't. And I think it comes down to just like there's a few different factors into it. But the fact that it just doesn't at some point just simply say, oh, by the way, you're in an open world. This is a big open world. Tell me that. Just let me explore. Let me explore. Just let me into the world you designed. Don't try to complicate it. Don't try to make alleys all the time. I'm okay with a few towns here and there, but don't try to lock me away out of a big open world. I don't know about you. When it comes to big open world fantasy games, there are points in the game where I do want to fight. There are points in the game where I just want to sit on top of a mountain and look at how beautiful the developers put into the game that they designed. I don't always get to do that with some of the latest games that come out these days in fantasy games. And they did that way more in the past. I feel like that's a lot of newer games are missing. And then the ones that do miss that, like there are some in the past that do miss that. I think that's just kind of like a bit like it's just like too complex, too focused story-wise, and just not enough like sit up on the mountain top and just chill out for a little bit. Sometimes I just do that. I would just do that. And even if I don't do that, I think it's the option of doing that. I think there's a lot of options are a good thing. I think the best thing is for video games are options. Whereas like it's like even in Grand Theft Auto, I know it's not a thing, it's the best one to give options to. There is a store. And I don't know if you got BlueFox, have you played Grand Theft Auto 5? And Kamizoide, have you played Grand Theft Auto 5?
Yeah, I played it.
And then Kamizoide, have you? Now, in that game, you can rob a store for a little bit of money. You don't do it. You hardly ever do it. There's no reason to do it. But the fact that it's there and it's optional just adds that little bit of immersion. I'm like, yeah, I can if I want to at any point in this game. And there's a lot of that in that game. So if I ever get bored with the main story, it's like, I just want to rob a store. It's available to you. And I think those are some things that make games that little bit more unique. It's like in Skyrim, there's a completely pointless activity you can do where you can chop up wood inside a wood store location. It pretty much pays for nothing. You chop down wood and you get 2 gold out of it. There's no reason why you would do that for money. But it's available, and it's there, and it just makes that adds that immersion into the game. And I think options make the game more immersive, and more immersion is better. And that's where I'm going. But overall, that is the podcast. Sorry, don't worry.
Can I have one thing I want to say?
Go on.
Just a little story that I want to share.
Just one of
the questions I'm looking into is how important is in-game economy and fantasy experience. You said like in-game economy, meaning like purchase system within the game itself, like when you're buying stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just I remember kind of like a funny story. I don't know if you guys like played the Resident Evil games, like specifically Resident Evil 5. Have you guys like played it?
No, I have not. No.
Yusef?
Resident Evil 5. I played Resident Evil. I don't know if I played Resident Evil 5. I think I have, but I'm not sure. Carry on.
Okay, the Resident Evil 5 store is just the funniest store in my opinion because you buy in a price, but when you sell the gun that you bought, it is just completely, it just rips you off. Like take for example this, there was like I beat the game at the hardest difficulty, which is professional, and now you unlock a special gun that's hidden behind that difficulty, which is like a huge infinite minigun. Okay, now you buy this minigun with let's say $500. So you reach that money point, $500. All right, I want to buy this minigun. Okay, you buy the minigun. Now let's say like you didn't like this gun and you want to sell it. Okay, I want to sell this minigun and just find it useful. Now you bought this minigun with $500 and you almost sell it at $50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hell
The
is
hell
this?
is this?
What's happening?
What's
Basically,
happening?
you've
You've
been
been ripped off.
You buy a gun with
$100.
$100.
You only sell it with $10.
You buy a Halo item with $10. You only sell it $1.
It's like a GameStop, right? It's when you try to sell a used game.
You know, speaking of, oh no, go on.
So it's just to me kind of like absolutely funny. The reasons why, because Resident Evil 5, every item that you have to buy, you have to make sure you use it. Because if you don't, you've just been ripped off completely. And there's no going back on your purchase. And I just find it absolutely funny how this purchasing or economic system Resident Evil 5 works. Like, did the whole BSIA, this organization that works to stop bioterrorism, why do they work with the scummiest person who sells weapons? Like, what the hell? I just find it absolutely funny in my opinion. Just kind of like because for me, I remember like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this minigun. I bought it. I didn't like it. I was gonna sell it. I was completely confused. I felt like there was something wrong with my opinion. How do you buy an item for $500 and then you sell it with $50? What is wrong with this game? What? I just find like that. It just feels like an economic system that's not fair with the player. That absolutely rips you off. Just find it like a little funny story.
You know, I'm gonna add in a funny story as well because I've got something in the economy RAM as well. Because this one's really short. I was looking for YouTube videos on how to make a decent amount of money because that's a hard game to make money on. And then there was a guy who tried literally every method to make money. Yeah, on YouTube. And I was watching. Okay, I'm learning. Yeah, this is great, but it's gonna take ages. Yeah, that's great. That's gonna take ages. And then he found the perfect method. He was like, I found the perfect method. I don't even know if the developers know about this. This is the best way to make money in the game. And it's investing. And I'm like, yes, come on! I found the perfect video for this. And I really hope this is still a thing and the developers haven't patched it off. In the comment section of the video, yeah, I think it's the top comment of it was the developers saying, well done.
Well, to be fair, like GG, right? If you are able to find a way to break the economy, then who are we to judge you, right?
It's like I generally think the developers put it in there on purpose as like a secret method of making money that the developers know and no one else can discover. And then someone discovered it and it was like, yeah, well done for discovering our secret. I was like, yeah, well done, well done. This guy deserves a round of applause.
Well, that reminds me that in The Witcher 3, which is a fantasy title, so it also suits well the discussion. There was a notorious bug that if you went to a location and killed the cows, you can get like some leather or some like material that would sell for like few coins. But the thing is that it was very close to an area where you would teleport and then come back and the cows would spawn again, right? So then you could just like spawn these cows, kill them, and then get some leather, then go back and then spawn again, right? And you would just farm the leather. So what the developers did is
I love this.
Yes, it's that they added an enemy to the game, which was called something like the cow demon or something like that.
He comes up to you and says,
yeah, it would like insta-kill you, or like at least very close to it. It would be extremely powerful and it would be undefeated. It was not defeatable. It was very fast, and that would only spawn if you killed more than like 10 cows or whatever. So that was a way to debuff this bug, which I think it was quite funny because they could have just said like, oh yeah, the cows don't drop anything now, but no, they went the extra mile to
add in just in
because
they were expecting just in case someone was cheating. So yeah, that's kind of it. Right. I'm bringing this to the end, but just before I bring this to the end, I will just mention a guy called Denzo Walls says, "Hi guys, I think that's from your channel, BlueFox."
That's Dan. That's my good old friend. It's the one I've made the video with, the Democracy in Games.
Okay. Yes, that is. That's correct. Yes, the Democracy one. I think he was voiced in that one as well. So
yes. It's it's a good friend of mine. He just arrived a little bit too late for the podcast, but
hopefully he catches us properly next time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching us on stream. Again, I know that BlueFox and Kamizoide have got a lot of projects going on. BlueFox, what are your projects going on for the next month?
Yes, the next video should come out this Wednesday, which is
exciting.
a little, but it's like a smaller project, nothing extraordinary.
You're getting really invested into your channel now, aren't you? Because I love your content way more.
Thanks. So that's
much
the
more effective.
the next video. So not this one that will come today, this Wednesday, but the next one will be a 5 mini reviews of 5 different games. And one of these games, it's Joe Deaver's Lone Wolf, the one that I mentioned multiple times in this podcast. So it suits well. And that video will come eventually.
And Kamizoide, on your end, what about you? Any projects you're working on?
I've been basically continuing on my own Elden journey, but so far I've been thinking about doing some experimentations or doing different kind of content. I've dropped a different kind of video that ones that I usually make with my excitement from new game of Nightwing and the fact that we are bringing back bosses from all previous games. So I made a video of discussing with the people. Basically, the idea of the video is just try to build a discussion with the person who was watching, and specifically fans of the From Software games of what are the kind of bosses that we expect to see back in this new game. And the other idea is that I know that I take quite some time to make my these Elden videos because of life. Also, I decided why not just make something short, kind of like 1 minute video, talk about a hilarious experience that I had in some glitches, something like fun that happened to me, and build quite some funny discussion behind it. So just trying to experiment with some new things. Also coming up with ideas. Perhaps I'm gonna start streaming on Sunday and Saturday with the new Elden Nightwing comes out, and I'm gonna experiment streaming other games that I'm super excited for. But that's gonna start after probably in summer, because I still got some things to take care of life. And of course, there's also my own Elden journey, and little by little I'm take care of the bosses and take care of the videos. So far I'm in the experimentation phase, experimenting with new ideas and new content. I'm getting a little tired of it taking so long to drop a video, so thought, you know what, let's just do something that doesn't necessarily need many edits, just me talking, that's it. Share a story, do something.
In the words of Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Yes.
And yourself, Seb? What are you busy with?
Oh, me? What am I busy with? Something special, something cool.
Well, don't be vague. Come on, at least give us a little teaser.
I'm building something really cool in the background. I can't tell you just yet, but I'll tell you a video that I'm working on. Next week, I'm working on my Fallout video. I'm excited for that. It's going to be tons of fun. So yeah, excited for that one. I'm going back to Fallout Vegas, all the way back there, back in time.
Nice, the best one.
Good, beautiful. There's a little short space between 2010 and 9 and 11 and that era.
Well, to be fair, there were also bad games in that time. Eh? Let's not be too romantic about those years. There were a lot of fetching quests. We already established this. Right.
That's the podcast.
I'm just
really
glad all three of us. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just really
glad
all three of us made it to the peak era of gaming from 2010 to 2020. It was the best era of video games, and so far this era has been nothing but just disappointment, in my opinion. So at least we lived the peak era of video games. So we have a lot of stories to tell the next generation, I guess. Just play Fortnite or any of these live service games. They don't know what gaming experience is. At least we lived through that era, boys.
Yeah, we did it. We can be proud of it.
Yeah.
Something to be proud of.
Right. I think that's the place to end it then. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys
thank you for watching.
on a very, very stream next time. Or something. I have no idea what I'm saying at this point. But there you go. Ta-da! Podcast.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a wrap.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bye. I think it's bye. Bye.
You have a fantasy game that you want to talk about, want to share?
Yeah,
here
do it.
on absolutely want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your favorite fantasy games. Write them down below, of course. And you have a funny story in the fantasy game, go on ahead.
I
You
did-
can even share it on the next episode. Who knows? I don't know. But in the end, I just don't know what I'm sorry.
And Kamizoide will respond to each and every one of you. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, if there are ideas of what we should discuss next, that would also be splendid.
Yeah, go for it. Comment ideas. We'll discuss your ideas. Yeah, write down the the video. If you're watching this on stream, the video will come out at the end of the month. So just keep an eye on that. Anyway, yeah. Catch you later. Bye.
Right. Again. Bye bye.
Later. Is it over?
I think so.
I still see the stream on Twitch.
I'll walk across the room just to show